Hello YouTube, today I'm going to be sharing an affordable fried rice recipe with you. These are all the ingredients that we need for the recipe. Be warned, before you click on and continue with the video, you need to have pre-cooked and chilled rice, leftover rice essentially, in order to do the recipe. Although you could get around by just cooking rice and using a little less water and making it more dry, but for optimal results you do want to have leftover rice. You need 4 cups of cooked and chilled rice. I chose to use this parboiled rice because it's the cheapest one you can get, costing you around 159 euros for this container of 1 kilogram. And we use about 2/3, costing €1 for the amount we use. Now you can use other types of rice. In fact, I think basmati and jasmine taste better, but they are going to be more expensive. So that's rice. Then we're gonna need 2 eggs. A carton will cost you approximately €2 at Aldi. I do the shopping for essentially all the ingredients I can at Aldi because that's the best supermarket for giving you the bang for your buck essentially. So 2 eggs would cost around 40 cents. For the carrots, €1.69 will get you 2 kilograms. We're only using 2 carrots for approximately 15 cents. The onion, again, I buy in bulk because, well, it's more convenient. These are all what I would consider staple supermarket or household items. The onion's going to cost you approximately 18 cents per onion, around, I'd say, $1.39 for 750 grams. Then the most expensive ingredient in the recipe is going to be the chicken breast, costing around $6.50 for 600 grams. We're going to use 300 grams for around €3.25. And then we have peas over there. That's around half a cup of peas. You can buy a 1 kilogram container for approximately €2. And lastly, we have 3 garlic knobs, I'm pretty sure they're called. You can buy around 3 heads for $1.50. It's a few cents for the amount of garlic we use. Now, arguably the only ingredient that is you have to buy for the recipe, unless you're familiar with Asian cooking, is soy sauce. You can buy this brand Lee Kum Kee for around 500 milliliters for €3, which is, I'd say, okay, because we only use 3 to 4 tablespoons, but it does taste good as a condiment with other foods. You can reuse it absolutely, and it tastes good. You could substitute for salt simply, but you do lose a lot of flavor. I would recommend getting the soy sauce. And then lastly, we have salt, garlic powder, and pepper. Typical seasonings, but if you don't have them, they're around 85 cents per container. So that's it for ingredients, and we'll get into vegetable cutting. Okay, so the 3 vegetables that you need to know how to cut are going to have to be onions, carrots, and garlic. For onions, it's pretty easy to, know how to cut it, but to cut it efficiently, there's this little trick where essentially you cut it in half, you cut off the ends, right? And you peel off the skin. This part, I don't think anyone would know how to do that. Okay, so then once you've peeled the onion, what you're gonna wanna do is take your knife, it doesn't have to be sharp, mine is, and you cut lines across the onion like this. You don't go entirely through because that's gonna make your life a lot harder. They're gonna come apart and be messy. So what you essentially wanna do is cut around like this. And then you turn the onion across and you cut this way. And this gives you these nice small pieces that are good for fried rice. You don't want them to be too big because then, nobody wants to be eating fried rice and have a giant clump of onion enter their mouth. So that's gonna be how you cut the onions. Next, carrots. These ones are pretty self-explanatory. What you're gonna need is a peeler. I mean, you could cut by knife, but it's gonna be really hard. So then you cut along, you scrape along like this. And then once you've done that, now you wanna cut along the carrot, diagonally, because, if you cut too short, I mean, the bigger the pieces at the start, the less messy or messed up it can be, right? So you go like this, you do this with all the pieces, and then you just cut I would go and stack them again and cut them one more time diagonally just to make it a little easier for me. And then once you've done that, again with the onion, you just go diagonally and you get these small pieces that are great for fried rice. Like this. Lastly, for garlic. This one, it always gets a little messy. What I like to do is crush the garlic on top of the knife. When it's like this, it's a lot easier to peel. It just comes off. And here, I try to get as thin of slices as possible, like this. It tends to get stuck to your knife. You're just gonna have to keep like scraping it down. And I keep repeating. And you keep going until you can't really see these big pieces anymore, because once again, same with the onions, big pieces in fried rice it's not fun. So you just keep going, scraping off your knife. You can use gloves if you want. And there you go, chopped onions. Next we're gonna move to the cooking. Okay, so what you're gonna wanna do now is take your 300 grams of chicken and cut it into bite size or even smaller size cubes, because you don't want them to be too big. You want them to spread out throughout the fried rice. You're gonna wanna turn your pan up to a medium-high heat, pretty high. And then what you're gonna wanna do is, once it's hot enough, you can check by splattering a little bit of water, and if it smokes that quickly, fizzles, it's hot enough. Then you need your type of oil. You can use butter or you can use oil, vegetable oil. I'm using olive oil, but that is pretty expensive. It's gonna be pretty costly. I think 500 grams is around, or 500 milliliters is around 6, 7, 8 euros. Vegetable oil is significantly cheaper. It's like 160 for an entire container. However, if you can't afford it, olive oil is significantly healthier for you. So you're just gonna wanna take this and put around 2 tablespoons of olive oil, maybe 3. And if the pan is hot, it's gonna like get low viscosity very quickly. It's gonna go around like this. And then, while that's heating up a little bit, you wanna take your chicken. Preferably use gloves, and add your seasonings depending on how much you like. If you don't know, you can just eyeball like how I'm doing it, roughly the same. Salt, pepper. You don't have to use these seasonings. You can use other ones. I'm just using these because I'm trying not to have all these random seasonings that you'd have to buy just to make a recipe one time, you know? So once that chicken has some seasoning, of course it's gonna get seasoned by the soy sauce later when you add it to the rice. You're gonna wanna just pour that into the pan. And you're gonna need a spatula to just spread that out. Like this. So once you've spread that out, you're gonna wanna leave it and let the chicken brown for, well, really I can't give you a time because it depends entirely on your pan and what you might consider medium high, but when you turn over the chicken, it should be light brown. So I'm gonna skip to when the chicken reaches that. Okay, so it's been around 3 minutes and you can see if I turn over the chicken that the bottom has started to brown. If your chicken has that kind of color, that means that it is ready to be turned around. So you can just go over them. You can use a fork if you want and just to help you turn over this chicken. And just make sure you get all of them to turn over. I prefer doing this over just moving them around and trying to get them all cooked. I think this gives you a better cook, although it is a little bit more laborious. So as you can see, all the chicken has now been turned over. And then you're gonna wanna let this cook for another 1 to 2 minutes. These pieces are small, so you don't have to cook for too long. So Just like let that do that. Okay, so the chicken's been in there for approximately 3 more minutes. So now I'm just gonna take it and transfer it into a container. Once you've done that, just add a little bit more oil. You're gonna be, actually, you probably first want to clean the pan because it's gonna get pretty greasy on the bottom because of the chicken. So let's do that first. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna want to do is whisk your 2 eggs and turn your pan up to a medium low heat. You don't want it to be too hot or else you're gonna overcook the eggs. Just a little bit of oil. Eggs do not need too much oil. And now, if that gets hot enough, what you're gonna do is just pour these in, but don't let them sit. You have to be ready to start stirring in order to not just have overcooked eggs, which is not fun. So just put them in, and as soon as they're in, you just start stirring around like this. It's gonna stick to your pan depending on how much or how little oil you put. That's perfectly fine. So you just don't want to keep stirring like this. It's gonna be very quick. These eggs are already done, and I just take them off like that. It's really important that you don't overcook the eggs. So you can always just take them off early, and if they look undercooked, you can put them back on, but don't overcook them. And next, what you're gonna want to do is add more oil. I'd say around 2 tablespoons should be good. Turn up the heat to a medium high, and then you're gonna want to take your frozen peas, carrots, onions, and put them in the pan. I like to put the garlic in first because I feel that giving the garlic a char enhances the flavor of the dish. If you don't really care, feel free to add all the vegetables in at once. I would recommend putting the garlic in for a few seconds, just letting it crisp up a little bit like this. And after doing that, then you take all the vegetables and you add them. You just want to keep stirring. You don't want vegetables to stay in the same spot for too long because they'll get burnt. Next, you saute the vegetables with just some salt, like this. Bland vegetables are not very tasty, so make sure you get enough salt. Similarly, you add pepper. Now, you can always add other seasonings, but I prefer salt and pepper on the vegetables by itself, like this. Then give it a good stir so you don't have all the seasoning on one unfortunate carrot, which does not taste good. And I'm sure the carrot doesn't like it either. Like this. And you're gonna want to periodically stir for around 3 to 4 minutes. Really, it just depends on how the vegetables are looking. They should be soft, so you can see how it goes with your heat and make adjustments. Okay, so here we have the vegetables fully cooked through. They're soft now. Don't be alarmed if your dish looks a little bit more green than mine. I just realized that I forgot to add up a carrot. But once you have the vegetables soft, what you're going to do is take another tablespoon of oil or butter, add it to the pan, and then you want to add the rice. All 4 cups of cooked and chilled rice into the pan. And then you're going to want to give it a good stir. Make sure the vegetables don't stay at the bottom because that's going to fully burn them, right? Although every now and again, you can leave the rice, just sit, let it crisp up at the bottom, get a little crispy. What you're going to want to do now is take your soy sauce, and you're going to want to add quite a bit. You can start off with 4 tablespoons and adjust from there, seeing how salty you like it. I prefer it a little saltier, so I'm gonna go heavy with 7. Now, this is the time where you would traditionally add sesame oil or oyster sauce, but I find that these ingredients, although they definitely enhance the flavor, if you don't have them, I don't find them exactly worth the time to just go and get them. I think that you can still make the fried rice without them. Although if you have any other seasonings, feel free to try them in, see if you like it with the fried rice. And you're gonna wanna get this going for a few minutes until, well, the rice is fried up a bit. And then what we're gonna do is put the chicken and the egg inside. Okay, so now the rice has been essentially fully fried. So what I'm just gonna do is take the chicken, add it in. Same with the egg, like this. Just give it one final mix. Make sure to get it all around. This. Now I made a mistake of not breaking up the egg. As you can see, they're kind of clumped up in certain areas. I would break it up a little bit more if I were to redo it, and just make sure that you have a more even distribution of egg. But like this, I don't want to overcook the egg, so I'm going to take it out, put it in this container, like this. Take it off the heat at the bare minimum. You could leave it in the pot, but don't leave it to keep cooking. And that is that. Here we have it. Chicken fried rice. Now, I have quite the appetite, so I'd consider this around 3 servings worth of fried rice. Including the ingredients earlier that I mentioned, if I were to buy everything in bulk as I did it, it would cost around 22 euros. But doing the calculations to make this batch itself, it costs approximately 560. So if you were to divide that into around 3 portions, it's going to cost you around 180, around, if I remember, 180 something for 1 serving, which is pretty good. If that's still like steep, I mean, I get it, sometimes you just don't have the money. You can always increase the intake of vegetables and decrease or even go vegetarian, although that's a little sad. You can always change the meat to beef, pork, the same cooking method as chicken. In fact, I'd say chicken breast is one of the more expensive cuts, but I mean, it is also the leanest. It has like the least fat, which I prefer, but you can always go chicken thighs or minced pork, minced beef. What I like to do is when I go to Aldi, a meat that's about to expire in 1 or 2 days will typically have a 30% discount, and I'll go for whichever cut is available. So if you're tight on a budget, that might be something you look into at Aldi. Anyways, that was fried rice. I hope you enjoy the recipe. It tastes really good, and I can't wait for you guys to try it. Bye.